Greetings to you all. Today we are going to be looking at a very important protocol that is used to assign IP addresses to network devices. There are different ways we can assign IP addresses to our devices on the network. One is called static and another one is dynamic. So if the number of hosts you have on the network is not that big, you could use static. But if the network gets large, that it is covering buildings and buildings, that would give you a hard time to use that configuration, as you would have to go on every machine configuring IP addresses, and even it could get worse for guests that are connecting to the wireless network. Remember, you have to give them IP addresses in order to access internet. So if you use a static configuration, yeah, really you would not achieve that scalability. So today we're going to be looking at a protocol called DHCP, which is used to assign IP addresses dynamically to a network host as it connects to the network. So previously in the lab, we configured the manager and the accountant PC using static configuration. So as you can see here, basic configuration, we configure them static. So that means that we are just giving them the IP addresses, and you have to keep track of all the IP addresses you have assigned to the network device. So in case two devices have the same IP on the network, both of them cannot communicate to the network. That is called an IP conflict. So both of them will be trying to use the same IP, and to result into an IP conflict, and both of them cannot access the internet. So basically here we set up a static IP address for the manager computer and also the accountant computer. Previously in the lab we were using. So the practical bit of this, you can also check on your mobile if you open and go to settings. So if you are settings, then status. So there you'll get battery and whatever, but we are more interested on the IP address. So if you are accessing through data, you still have an IP address. Also, if you're accessing through Wi-Fi, you still have an IP address. So you can try, if you're accessing Wi-Fi, you may be able to get the same address you're using, because there's something called the DHCP lease time. So unless the DHCP lease time has expired and has not been renewed, you're likely to receive a new IP address. Also, if you're using data, you can try to switch off and on your data. When you switch off on and off your data, you're likely to receive different IP addresses. So you can try while keeping watch on the IP address field on the status section of the about phone. You can see that there is an IP that starts with a number. Though nowadays, what's running on the core of all networks, we are running double stack. What I mean by double stack is that we are having IP version 4 and IP version 6 running at the same time. So when a network device connects to the network, it is assigned both IP address versions. So you have an IP version 4 and an IP version 6. So probably if you're running, if you try to access that through data, you are likely to receive both. But the top one is the one which has numbers only, is the one which is an IP version 4. So that's what we're going to be covering today. So you can try to switch and off your data or your Wi-Fi, but for Wi-Fi you're likely to receive the same IP address, but for data, remember there are a lot of people connecting, switching on and off their data, so it is likely that you'll be receiving different IP addresses as you try to reconnect. So that's what you're going to be looking at today. So you're going to be configuring DHCP in our lab. So we're going to configure core switch 1. Right now we are still working on core switch 1. Then later in the lab we shall see how we can do some network redundancy, so that when core switch 1 fails, core switch 2 can take over the work. Or we shall do some load balancing. Some network hosts can use core switch 1 as the primary and use core switch 2 as the backup, then vice versa for the other hosts. So today we're going to be configuring core switch 1 as an DHCP server. So in order to configure core switch 1 and DHCP server, I have to go into global config. That is system view. Then we first have to enable the DHCP enable. So having enabled that, we are going to create a few pools. So I'm going to say IP pool. So let us call this management. I'm going to name this management. So now here we are in the pool configuration. So we are going to configure the network. Network for the manager is as you can see is VLAN 20. So it is 192.168.100.32, and then the mask is 27. So we press enter. Then the gateway, so gateway list, I'll use the command an option called gateway list. Gateway list, you can use tabs to complete that. As you can see, our gateway is 192.168.100.33. So that is our gateway. Then we have also DNS. So if you have a DNS server, you could also specify this, but you are going to specify for Google. For Google, can we add another one? Maybe we can use our 192.168. Our gateway as a DHCP server also. So with that configured here, you can also specify other option like the DHCP list time, how long should the host use this network before it renews it. So basically that's what you need to configure basic DHCP server. So in order for our VLAN 20, which is our network manager network, the manager and accountant network to use this DHCP pool that has been configured, have to go into that particular interface, that particular VLAN interface, which is VLAN 20, and you see IP DHCP. It's supposed to be DHCP select global. So if you have a DHCP server, also we shall look at that in future. So today I've just been configuring core switch one. So if we're having a DHCP server, as I've said, we shall look at in future. So we could specify particular the DHCP server for particular VLANs where they could get the IP addresses. So with that configured, now we can get dynamic IP addresses on our management network, which is this accountant and manager. So if we change this to dynamic now, probably we should be able to receive an address through DHCP and our gateway. So I can try to do IP config to test if it is working. As you can see, we have already an IP address which is 61. It has already come, and we remember our DNS server, we set this one which is for Google 8.8.8, and also we set our default gateway as also our DNS server. So if we come to the management network, to the manager's PC, we can also check that we have also received IP config. You can see we have also received 192.168.100.62 as our IP address, and also the DNS server as that. So we are going to create another pool for the help desk network, but this time around we are going to configure some. We are going to assign one particular PC a particular MAC address, but instead of assigning it statically through here, for example, this is 100.2, we are going to assign it dynamically from the the DHCP server, sorry. So I'm going to change to this DHCP. So we are going to do some binding. So I'm going to get its MAC address, this. I'm going to copy this. So we are going to also to create here, remember this is our DHCP now server now on the service desk network. So service desk VLAN is interface. So you first create a pool, IP pool service desk service, and let me just name it service only. So the network is 192.168.100.0. The mask is 27. Then our gateway Our gateway is 192.168.100.1. Then our DNS we use it in name resolution. So 8, this is for Google. Then we shall use this our gateway as also our DNS. So in case Google doesn't reply, our DNS, our host will send us that query so that we can contact our internal DNS servers, which also probably will later refer to Google. So with that said, we have set up the DHCP. So here the DHCP address pool for the service host, but here I want to give this particular host an IP address of 2 through DNS. What we do here, we do static bind IP address 192.168.100. Remember it had an IP address of 2. Then you're supposed to select its MAC address after here. MAC address, and we paste the MAC address here. MAC address here, but we are going to change this to 44. Remember there are 2, we're going to remove this. Then we come here, remove also this and also this so that they be 44. So right now we have configured that. We can exit, we can quit this and go into that interface VLAN if interface, that is VLAN 10 right for the service desk. Interface VLAN if 10. Then we say DHCP select global. And with that configured, our hosts are able to get IP addresses here. So this one will have its IP address of 2, remember as it was having it, but this time around it's configured through DHCP. So we shall change this also to obtain the IP addresses through DHCP. So we can try out this and check if it has obtained an IP address. IP config has not yet obtained, so we have to give it some time and see it has not yet obtained. IP config. So as you can see, this one has obtained now. This is an IP address of 30. So hopefully this one also has obtained now. It has not yet obtained. I don't know why. Is it in the right? Maybe it's not yet assigned to that particular VLAN. IP config. This one should have an IP address of 2 because we configured it statically through DHCP. So as you can see, it has still got its IP address of 2. So when do you use static IP addresses? Static IP addresses, we normally use them in the servers, on the server side. You wouldn't want your server to change an IP address all the time. That really would have some impact on network, that somebody has to look for that particular service, that particular IP address, access a service every time he's trying to access the internet. So that wouldn't be good. So static IP addresses are normally used for network hosts that don't need to change. For example, a printer, your printer is always there, it's not going to move and it's being accessed frequently. So you would want it to have a stable IP address. So we give it a static IP address. Then the servers also need static IP addresses in order to be reliable. A server with a dynamic IP addresses wouldn't be that reliable. So as you can see, this has been assigned IP address of 2. Probably this port is not in our. Okay, we shall check that. This is in the port Ethernet 003. You can check here. Display VLAN. You can see port Ethernet 03. Where is it? Ethernet 03. Ethernet 03 is not here, so we're going to add it. So we're going to go system view, interface Ethernet 003. So port link type. I'm going to change it to access. Then port default VLAN. Port default VLAN is going to be VLAN 10. Okay. So probably now it has done that DHCP. So as you can see now, it is able to get an IP address through DHCP. So previously the porter was not in that particular VLAN. So as you can see, we can do some network testing to ping 192.168, sorry, 168.100.2, which is the PC in the same network. So as you can see, that's how we are able to configure a DHCP server. So if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. So in the next video, we shall be learning more and more about this network configuration of Huawei devices. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.